Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be talking about The Dark Tower, that is, Stephen King's Dark Tower, the movie adaptation. I'll be your host for this evening. First up, joining me tonight, you know him as, in his own mind, the real MVP of Bloody Good Horror. He is a man who loves to drink, he lives in Chicago, and he just ate something called chicken skin nachos this weekend. His name is Joe.
It's an entire Southern fried chicken dinner in a bowl. In nacho form.
Next up on the show, coming to you from Indiana, his name is Casey.
Heyo.
And finally tonight, in case you don't know as a listener, Mark is off the show right now, impending the birth of his offspring. So we decided we wanted to bring somebody in on a permanent, semi-permanent basis to replace Mark while he's gone. And that person is Queen of the Book Club, the Andals and the First Men, Breaker of Chains. Please welcome to the show, CC Stormborn.
Wow, thank you. That's quite an introduction.
Yeah.
Shit, you've been reading again, haven't you?
Yeah.
And I think by like temporary replacement, we mean like after a few months, we'll be like, well, Mark, no. Maybe there's not a role for you to come back to.
Yeah. Well, we thought it would be a good opportunity to have somebody kind of step into the role every week instead of worrying about who was going to fill in for him. And of course, we went with Queen of Books, Cece. So, Cece,
well,
welcome
thank you.
to the show.
I'm very excited.
You should be excited. It's a very exciting thing. We're here tonight, as I mentioned, to talk about The Dark Tower. And also, I want to talk about some trailers, because I was in the theater this weekend, and I saw so many trailers. I actually, it seems like I'm getting a new wave. It seems like the fall wave is starting, and the stuff I've been seeing for the last couple months is starting to kind of turn over, which is nice. So, first thing I got that I didn't know about was Mother by Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah.
You know what I'm seeing lately, like more creative trailers, which is pretty cool. So like this trailer is all her walking around an empty house while audio from the film plays underneath, and like she's kind of in locations where I assume some of these scenes are happening, but you're not seeing it. You know what I mean? It's like this kind of haunting juxtaposition. Do you guys know anything about this movie? It sounds like a home invasion-y kind of thing.
No.
I do.
Mm-mm.
But did you see the trailer?
Yes.
Good talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
What is it? It's Jennifer Lawrence. There's a couple like well-known people in this, right?
Yeah, I don't know, because she's all you see in the trailer.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
Jennifer Lawrence, Javier Bardem, Ed Harris, and I think a few other pretty, like Michelle Pfeiffer, Kristen Wiig's in it.
Really?
Oh, wow.
I am very much enjoying the current Ed Harris renaissance that's happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
As a huge Creepshow fan, I always like to see him in anything. Nice. He is one of my favorite characters in Creepshow, just for the pure absurdity. But like, I'm watching Westworld right now, and he's amazing in that. He's chewing scenery.
Oh, yeah, he's really good in that.
Wearing black, you know.
His Westworld role's on par with his Night Raiders role.
Yeah.
Westworld is watchable.
So I caught that trailer. There's this other one that I've been seeing for months, and literally every time in my head I go, oh, I want to talk about that in the show, and then I forget, is this Agatha Christie adaptation, Murder on the Orient Express.
I did not.
Oh, I didn't get that trailer.
So have you seen this ever? Because I've been seeing it for months. So the trailer's incredible. I just had Casey watch it, thank God, so someone else has seen it. But it's basically, you're on the train. The whole thing is one single shot, and it's a camera like dollying down the aisle, and it's like you're in the perspective of the inspector or whatever who's going to inspect this murder, and you've got all the actors lined up, and you're panning from person to person. They're like, a murder, by golly, I've got the vapors. But it's like,
Right.
Yeah.
it's
And
got
Somebody posted that in our Slack.
Yeah,
I
but it's
remember
got
now.
this
It's really
really-
effective too, because they give you like titles for everybody too, so you know who they are.
yeah, it's like the princess and the heiress and like all
And the governess.
and it's like Daisy Ridley and Josh Gad, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh, wow.
Dame Judi Dench.
Yeah, Judy did like in this amazing cast, and you're just going down, kind of panning over their faces, and they're dead panning to the camera. It's a really cool trailer.
That's
It's
right.
even
yeah,
got
yeah, now
Johnny
you talk
Depp in
about
it.
Meh.
Yes.
But the best part is, though, we get as they pan down through this dining car through the train, and they're introducing everybody, talking about the murder. And they say, well, how do you know that the murderer is still going to be in here? He said, because I'm the greatest inspector ever. And then it pans back at the end of the train to Kenneth Branagh as Inspector Poirot.
Yeah, with a killer mustache.
Which is exciting if you've ever been into Agatha Christie stuff. Inspector Poirot is a pretty big character. So
Okay.
Yeah, my dad was too.
I was kind of into it in like 6th grade that one time when they made us read that one book. That was about it. 10 Little Indians, I think I read.
Emerald Indians, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that movie looks really cool. I'm excited about that. I'm feeling like I need to get on this Kingsman bandwagon because this seems
So
like
good.
It's really good.
right up my alley.
Yeah.
Tell me
It's
about your feelings on this Kingsman trailer, Cece. We were just talking about it pre-show.
Channing Tatum as a super southern James Bond type.
Oh, is that what it is? Is that why he's getting to you because of
Super.
the Southern thing?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So it's very like Jeff Bridges, and the guy who plays oh god, from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, so that's my favorite part. Is
Oh,
like
that's
yes.
who that is.
the whole
Yeah,
trailer.
so-
I'm like, did they like CG recreate Burt Reynolds? Because I'm looking, I can't tell who he is.
No.
And then the very last shot, they close up on his face, and I'm like, oh fuck, it's Game
Yes,
of Thrones.
I can't. I'm horrible, and I can't think of his name right now. But they are all statesmen, which is the American version of the Kingsmen.
They're
So
just like
they
cowboys.
are just Secret Service, and they have rifles and lassos.
Yeah.
So
Laser lassos.
laser
Yes.
lasso.
What a big FU that would have been to Burt Reynolds if they were CGI recreated somebody still alive.
I mean, he does. In fairness, he does look a lot like
Yeah.
Burt Reynolds there. So I
You know
can.
what? We'll just we'll CGI. All right? I'm not up for dealing with you in person.
Well, because it was this weird uncanny valley thing where I'm like, holy shit, Burt Reynolds in this
Yeah.
movie, and then I'm like, no, Burt Reynolds is he even alive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, if he
I
is,
think
It's a fair
Jeff Daniels-
comparison.
Jeff Bridges is the statesman. I don't
Yeah.
know if I said Bridges or Daniels. Sorry.
It looks really cool. I would like to see this movie. It doesn't look like it's streaming, like the original. It doesn't look like it's streaming anywhere, but
Yeah.
Did y'all get the Flatliners?
Oh
Yes.
god.
yeah. So my
Yeah.
note, was Flatliners trailer. What LOL?
Yeah.
so bad.
It doesn't.
Not a fan.
It's really bizarre the tone they've gone for. At least according, it feels like remember that movie about the kids who are trying to outdare themselves to take like the most dangerous selfie? We didn't watch it because I don't remember. Like it sort of looked like a horror movie, and then it didn't. Joe remembers this because he got really
Oh,
mad.
Nerve.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like
yeah.
that
Ah.
kind of felt like the tone of this trailer, like not very horror-y or something, or a little horror-y. I don't know. It's very
Are
strange.
you already trying to rationalize not having to see it?
No, it's fine. I just it looks very bad, and I don't, and like
Yeah.
the cast looks surprisingly good for what it appears to have turned into. So I don't know.
Yeah,
looks
it
bad.
looked unwatchable.
I gotta be honest, I don't remember liking the original of that.
I just watched the original, and I mean, it was all right, but
It has
I
its
mean,
moments. I mean, I feel
yeah.
like it's mostly a period piece for like, oh, Kiefer Sutherland
Yeah.
and Kevin Bacon.
And Kevin
Yeah,
Bacon.
I think it was really
Farrah
more the
Fawcett
cast.
era.
Like I remember there being a lot of buzz around it because it's like, yeah, Kiefer Sutherland,
Yeah.
Julia
Yeah.
Roberts.
Isn't Minnie?
And is it Oliver, whatever his name is?
Is
Oliver
Minnie
Platt.
Driver in that
Platt.
movie, or am I thinking of the Julie Roberts character?
Yeah, I
Who?
think you're thinking of Julia Roberts.
Julie Roberts, yeah. Mr. Jason, welcome to the show. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Whoa, yes, you're
Hello?
you're very loud.
Hold on.
We're live right now, just so you know.
I figured.
Yeah.
I'm pretty late.
Jason, how do you feel about the Kingsman trailer?
I loved it, man. I've been watched that trailer like 6 times.
Yeah, it's pretty
It's
sweet.
batshit crazy, and that's exactly what I wanted that movie.
The other thing I got was I got a new It trailer that I hadn't seen that seemed to have
Yes.
a lot more action and scares and stuff from the movie. I'm getting to the point with this trailer where I need to close my eyes like I do sometimes because I'm sick. I can't get the same. The scares are going to be meaningless when I've seen them like a billion times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first time I had really watched any of the trailers, so I was kind of excited, but I don't want to watch it again until it's, I'm actually watching it.
I just have this.
I don't know if you guys talked about this. Did you guys get the Mother trailer?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, we talked about it.
All
If,
right.
if your Skype was working, you would have been there.
It's too late. It's too late for opinions, Jason. We don't want to hear it.
Zing.
You know,
I thought it was good.
the It trailer's like, I'm starting to get this feeling like it is going to be huge because
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that the name and the clown thing, I'm getting this vibe that it's very transcendently mainstream, and that like, even if you don't even remember seeing the original trailer, you're like, oh, it's It. I don't know. I'm getting this vibe
Yeah.
like that movie's gonna blow up.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of buzz around it,
Yeah.
and they're pushing it hard. So hard.
I think I got a trailer too for Annabelle 2, which is our next
Electric Boogaloo.
week's pick, I believe.
Yep.
I'm hearing like shockingly positive things about that movie, but I heard them about the first movie too, so it's like,
I
know?
hated the first one, so I hope
Yeah,
the
it's
second
awful.
one is better.
yeah,
It's awful.
it's not great.
Hated it.
So the last thing I want to bring up before we move on here is somebody we've been talking a lot about lately about I feel like for years about how trailers give away the whole plot. And I was listening to another podcast lately, and somebody wrote in and kind of illuminated that a little bit. Apparently, I guess the difference between now and back in the day, which is always the period that we're like praising trailers for, I guess trailers now are fully focus tested in a way that they never used to be. And one of the main questions asked on every questionnaire is, do you understand what this movie's about? And so if that score doesn't do well, they basically make them go back and start pumping in more plot points. And so
I mean,
basically
we live in a world where there's release footage before the trailer comes out as a sneak preview of the trailer.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. So I don't know. I just thought that was really interesting. Like, makes total sense. Like, oh, of course, that's why every movie, trailer now has all the plot points. But I just thought that was an interesting anecdote.
Not this movie.
No, that's true. You couldn't have. I mean, I saw the whole thing, and I still don't know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
Joe,
You need to
Yes,
have a plot.
sir.
it's time to drink. So please bring us your beer recommendation.
Beer guts.
You just looked genuinely surprised when that came on.
It still makes me happy every time, and I will say that every week. Yeah, The Dark Tower, a Stephen King adaptation, which I didn't read, but Jason, thank God you're here, because apparently you did. About a young lad who, I don't know, fights off evil that apparently is spawned from Brooklyn, New York, as most evil is. So
It's true.
obviously, we picked a beer from the fine folks at Brooklyn Brewery out there in Brooklyn.
Where's
Brooklyn?
Where's Brookerlin?
Brooklyn. Brooklyn's actually in the house. I don't know if you guys saw. Brooklyn Brewery in Brooklyn, New York. One of the 5 boroughs of beautiful New York City. And the beer I picked from them is their Local One, which, Eric, I feel like you've probably had. I know it's one of Mark's favorites.
I
Or
don't
used to
know.
be.
Maybe if I did, I was probably like at my brother's house and totally shit-faced. So I don't
Yeah.
really remember, but I'm sure I've tried it at some point.
So this is one Brooklyn distributes pretty far at this point, so you may have seen this in your stores. It comes in a big, like almost champagne bottle with a big giant 1 on it, and it is a Belgian strong pale ale. Which the name is a little misleading because this beer isn't like super hoppy, although you definitely get those flavors at the end. It really has sort of like a crisp. I don't want to say like a wheat beer, but almost like a golden ale. So. It's got kind of like a nice maltiness to it, but very sort of smooth and drinkable, especially for being like 9% alcohol, which is pretty hefty. So, you have like 1 or 2 of these and maybe think about, calling an Uber for the kids to get picked up from school. But, this one, I had it for the first time, like, I want to say maybe even like 10 or 11 years ago at the Extreme Beer Fest. And like, I remember a lot of people talking about it, and now it's probably one of the more popular. I think they may even sell it in 4-packs at this point. But definitely like a great summer beer, because like I said, like it does kind of have like that almost like golden ale flavor, and like you can drink it out in the sun and enjoy yourself, even though like it is high in alcohol, so it'll sneak up on you. But definitely a great beer. I mean, Brooklyn, everything they put out is good. I mean, they're pretty well known at this point, so give this one a go if you're so inclined.
Nice.
BrooklynBrewery.com is their website, and there you go.
I love that you're taking the responsible road by telling people to call an Uber. This is like
Call an Uber for your 4-year-old.
turning over a new leaf for Joe. I saw a news story recently about a service that was just exactly that somebody was trying to start, where it's like rides for your kids.
Huh.
I'm just like, yeah, no, what could go wrong?
Yeah, just send a complete stranger to pick up your child.
Sure. All right, Joe. Thank you for that. It is time, folks. Let us talk about The Dark Tower.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big breaking TV. Got the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
And we're back. Who wants to synopsize this thing? I didn't even like discuss this pre-show.
I think Jason should.
Jason,
Yeah, I was gonna say that's definitely on Jason or Cece.
Jason, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
All right, yeah.
Oh, thank God.
Tell me what this movie's about. Not the books. Tell me what this movie is about.
You guys ready? This is gonna take about 3 seconds. There's a kid. He's pretty annoying. Oh god. And he dreams of a world where he draws pictures. He's kind of a freak. And his stepfather is a complete douche. And he wants to get away, so he flees to the desert, or flees away from people who have skin that they evidently cover themselves with to mask the fact that they're lizard people. We guess nobody really tells us.
Yeah, we're
what
never
they are.
actually really shown what they're covering up, right?
No.
And they show up one day to take him to a mental hospital for the weekend. And because he gets in trouble at school, he got his notebook taken. He got in a fist fight. And I guess he sees a psychiatrist who doesn't believe him that there's this other world that he dreams about. Then they come to take him away. A homeless man tells him that they've come to take him. And the whole premise of the story is that certain children are taken to this place, placed into seats, and their combined psychic power will topple this tower that I guess is preventing demons from coming and destroying us. He dreams of this gunslinger who, piecing the information from his dreams, discovers that in New York City, there is a portal which will allow him to go to this other world. He learns that he has extreme psychic powers. And from there, they go to do battle against this big Matthew McConaughey, who's the Dark Wizard, I guess.
Also his minion Freddy Krueger from the remake.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Freddy Krueger's there, and a kid in a flannel shirt as well. And they go to do battle against the forces of evil, I would say.
Pretty much my entire review centers around that flannel shirt, but we can get to that in a little bit. Joe, have you read The Dark Tower? Do you have any familiarity? What do you think of the movie?
I have not read it. I knew nothing about it going in, other than there was this like gunslinger thing, but I really didn't know what I was getting into. I mean, the trailer, I think the first one kind of got me excited for this, so I was actually looking forward to this movie. But when we got in there, I was like immediately lost. Like Jason, I think, said, like, there's these people with like the skin they put on, but we don't really know why or like what the hell's going on, and like there's really never like much of a setup to this movie. We'll talk about it, but I found the main kid to be kind of obnoxious, probably because he is a teenager and all teenagers are obnoxious at this point. But like he was just a little too hair flippy for my liking. Idris, I'm gonna say his name wrong. Is it Idris Elba? How do you say his name?
I think
I don't know. I mean, the way he says it is different than the way I say it. So Idris,
you're probably right, Cece.
I just call him beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, he's good in this, like, as good as you can be, but like there's nothing you really can latch onto. Like you're supposed to feel bad for this kid's parents, but at the end of the day you don't really care. Matthew McConaughey, he's gonna potentially destroy the world, maybe, but like there's never any real tension, and even like sort of the big battle scene is just him like kind of snatching
yes, that's so
bullets
stupid.
out of the air. It's
when he catches the bullets, I'm like, fucking seriously?
Yeah.
He also makes chicken.
You know what that scene reminded me of? Do you remember those commercials? I think they were was it Jordan versus Bird or Magic versus Bird where they're playing horse and they're like
Oh, yeah.
bouncing the basketball off walls, because at some point Idris Elba
Yes.
is just trying to like air hockey trick shot him to try to shoot him, and Matthew McConaughey is like bouncing them off the walls. It's really something else.
To me, it looked like a sarcastic rom-com where like the guy like catches the kiss out of the air that the girl like blew him. It's like, oh, I got you, Idris. Give me kisses, you. Full disclosure, there's a scene in the middle of this where the kid and the gunslinger are like stopping for the night, and there's like a babbling brook, and I legit conked out for 15 minutes once that started because it was just so like quiet and peaceful. So I missed some of this, but for the most part, I think I got the gist. I was not a fan.
All right.
It's only 45 minutes long, so.
Yeah. CC.
So I read almost the majority of the first book, The Gunslinger, but to be honest, I don't really remember a whole lot of it. So going in, I would say I was relatively a clean slate, and I was looking forward to it, but I was pretty let down. I didn't hate it, but there wasn't anything exciting. I think either Jason or Casey, someone kind of mentioned earlier how it kind of feels like a second installment. So there's a lot of things that you're already expected to care about and already know, or, just nothing's really, I don't know, nothing really grabs your attention. Like Joe was saying, the fight scenes, I was expecting these really over the top, intense, like good versus evil kind of things. And they're just, he basically, shoots a goblin in the woods and goes on about his business. So I do love
to be fair, I feel like the type of gun that he has like really hinders the action movie potential, because we're used to watching action movies where dudes have shotguns and machine guns, and he's just like pew pew pew. Like there's nothing.
Well, I mean,
but they did kind of.
They talk about it. Or no, I was just gonna say they kind of talk about it where it's like a throwaway comment that his gun is made from the forged, metal of Excalibur. So you already know that, like,
which like what?
Yeah,
but they
fuck are you
set up like
talking
these
about?
badass like reloadings that he does, and like they showed it a few times, and it's like, oh, that's super cool. But I agree, it doesn't really lend itself to be like entertaining. But I think they could have done something with it.
Yeah, and it just felt really like, even those scenes, everything felt so choppy to me. Like even Idris, who I think is a really great actor, he felt really robotic. And Matthew McConaughey, I don't know what he was doing in this movie, but like it was literally felt disjointed, and that their conversations were just all piecemeal. Like nothing felt interactive at all, and that was really, really bothersome.
Casey.
I think I read 2.5 books, possibly 1.5. Looking back at them, it's been a long ass time, so I don't remember details. I just remember something about a Roland waking up on a beach at the beginning of one of the books, and a crab bit his finger off. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much all I remember. So I was relatively excited getting into this. I mean, there's a lot of lore going around, especially if you're a Stephen King fan, around these books, so I was pretty excited for that. Movie itself, I got to the end of the movie. I enjoyed it for the most part for what I saw, but at the same time, I think this movie is like a textbook case of a foot deep and a mile wide. There's so much potential here that they did not get into, and I said this over the email, but this is like the first time I think in the history of this show that I think a movie actually needed to be a lot longer.
Yeah,
from what we got.
I don't know about a lot, but yes.
I mean, I could have dealt with 3 hours of this if they were fleshing out some of this backstory, like Cece said, that we were expected to know and be familiar with when we got in here. It would have helped it. Probably not 3 hours, but it would have been better than what we got. Otherwise, I thought everybody was all right for the most part. Matthew McConaughey was a little laughable a couple times as a villain. I liked Idris Elba a lot. Jake did not bother me.
Can we talk about
cool.
the fact that Matthew McConaughey had like a starter mullet?
I mean, what was
like
that?
It was just a flippant. It's funny because I saw him on a talk show promoting this film, and all I could look at was his hair. I'm like, holy shit, is that what his hair looks like in the movie? And it turns out, yes, plus like black shoe polish, Kevin Bacon style.
Yeah.
What a great world he must live in, where people aren't persecuted for having mullets.
That wasn't the part that bothered me. It was just maybe it was the shoe polish look. I don't know, but it looked like he was wearing a wig.
Joe, he's actually from Keystone Mullet Earth, which is where you can have a mullet and it's cool.
I like to think in Matthew McConaughey's alternative universe, I would have gotten some action in high school.
That's the beauty of the story, Joe. There's infinite universes.
There's something,
Or I
there's
don't
something
know.
for everyone.
Hey Jason, am I correct in stating that you are our lone full book reader of the Dark Tower series?
Yeah, evidently I'm the expert.
All right, what's your quick take on the books? Give me a quick take on 7 books, 1,000 pages each, and then tell me what you thought of the movie.
Well, as you can imagine, in 7 books, it's pretty dense. There's a lot there, right? So essentially, I guess I would call the Dark Tower, in a way, the nexus of the Stephen King universe, in that it tries to explain that the entire Stephen King universe exists on alternate planes, and that's basically the premise, if you take the overarching entire story, right? So one thing that the movie gets completely wrong is that Jake doesn't come from Keystone Earth. Keystone Earth is us. So in other words, everything that happens outside of us exists on a different plane. So in other words, Keystone Earth is the real world where Stephen King exists writing the series. So
Sure.
If that makes any sense. So in other words, what the Dark Tower hypothesizes is that every time Stephen King essentially writes a story, he's creating another plane of existence. And you have the Dark Tower there, and his job is to be a chronicler of that story.
I definitely
so
got
just
that from this movie.
Well, you didn't.
No.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the thing. We live in a world where the Hobbit 150-page book got 2 3-hour-long movies. And they're asking, so I don't blame this director for anything. I think that this movie must have been cut to shit, quite honestly, and forced to be, easily palatable to like audiences that just want to watch an easy film that's a fun fantasy story. And that task just doesn't belong to the Dark Tower series. It's a very, it's full of lore. It's, there's a lot to explain there. And you can't ask anyone to make an 88-minute movie to explain all of that.
Do you
So
think?
essentially,
I mean, do you really think though, even if it was longer, that like this version of the movie could have been set, or like, could there be one movie about these books that would work regardless of how long it was?
I doubt it, but I think 3 hours would at least
Give you a better shot.
I don't think that, because even with like the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit, or even Game of Thrones, right? That world's sort of familiar to everyone. Like I get in the Hobbit, even if I've never read any of the Lord of the Rings, if I'm dropped in that world, there's goblins and all that type of shit, right? Like I know I have a background of understanding of those things, right?
I mean, yeah. It seems to me like,
and the Dark Tower, I'm creating something completely different that no one's ever really seen before, and asking audiences to pick that up in an 88-minute film, I think, is ridiculous.
I mean, and you can speak to this better than I can, which is not at all, but it seems like a lot of the draw of the books would be, oh, I'm a huge Stephen King nerd, and here's this amazing universe that is somehow tying all this together. And that's like, in a fun kind of super nerdy way. And I don't see how you could ever put that in a movie. Like maybe a show.
Yes, I think this was best suited for like an HBO series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is something that, I mean, especially you would want to be a Stephen King super fan, and that you would want a medium that allows for this world building to occur in not necessarily real time, but an instance where it's easily understandable, because it is super complex and super dense.
Or at least like set it up that like this is going to be the first installment in like a series of movies. Which I mean, I guess I don't think we're giving anything away by saying that they leave it open to a sequel, but like it definitely could be if it doesn't do well, which I guess, I mean, it was #1 this week, so I assume it's doing okay. Like it definitely could be enclosed in just one single movie, which baffled the shit out of us.
So
well, here's the other aspect of this, right? Which is this isn't the first or the second story, right? So, spoilers. I'm gonna give some light spoilers for. Well, maybe this isn't a light spoiler, but there's an idea in the Dark Tower as well that, like, speaking of McConaughey, time is like a flat circle, right? So, in other words, the gunslinger's destined to do this forever and ever and ever. So the last line of the book is the first line of the first book. In other words, once everything's wrapped up, it started again. And there's I think what they're saying is that this actually occurs after the last book, because there's stuff that's hinted at here that references things that happened in the book series, which makes this extremely weird. Which is, I'm asking audiences that know nothing about this to pick up 7 books worth of position in between in 88 minutes and only explaining half of it.
So like
even in that
going kind of 180 from so Jason's read all the books, and then you go to me who like I can barely read a book. And so I would like to point out that when I got out of this, I tweeted something like mildly negative about it, and I said in the tweet that I had never read the books. And some rando that I don't even follow or doesn't follow me tweeted me in all caps and just said, "Read a book." And I was like, "Whoa, dude." So it's interesting. It's interesting to note. Yeah, it doesn't matter what book.
Any book.
It's interesting to note that like there's definitely, and I'm seeing this in like some comments too, because I've broken just out of curiosity, and like there seems to be a small group of people that were so jazzed up about this becoming a movie that they kind of just loved it just because it's there, and some of them, not all of them, but some of them seem like very hostile to the people who don't like this movie, which is like, I think welcome to the internet, I guess. But
I mean, I think that's something that happens a lot, especially with just book adaptations in general.
Well, you're so invested in the material. Like I understand it. It's just kind of funny, I guess.
Well, but can I say that, speaking as a book reader, and I agree, Eric, you should read a book. But I don't.
I am reading a book right now, and it's long. Okay.
I don't think that has anything to do with this. Like, that dude's just a douche. I'm gonna call him out right now.
It just made me laugh because I try to stay so above like internet fighting that it like really shocked me to see somebody like coming at me on the internet. I was like, whoa.
But as a book reader, this is a more infuriating experience than a non-book reader.
Yeah.
In my
sure.
opinion.
Oh, sure.
Because if I'm a non-book reader, this is just typical summer
Hollywood bullshit.
Boring kind of stupid movie. For a book reader, I'm picking up all of those things and thinking what could have been.
Yeah. Just to kind of like sum up my viewing, this film, it just kind of, if you haven't seen the books, it kind of just happens to you. And it's totally, I think if you're just looking at it in that way, it's totally a competently shot movie. It looks nice. Like Idris Elba is pretty entertaining, even though his character is totally baffling. I thought the kid was fine, shockingly, because I usually hate child actors. I know Joe didn't like him, but I was like, yeah, whatever. But there's just like this universe. They don't earn anything in the universe. Like the movie starts and a title card comes up and it says, on some other planet, there's a tower and like people are trying to destroy it with kids' minds. And if they destroy it, they're going to unleash monsters on Earth. Like that's a title card. And I remember thinking like, holy shit, bro, if you have to start your movie off that way, you're fucked. Like there's no way this is going to, and so we start just on a random other planet and there's a building and the kids are screaming and there's like mind bullets being shot at the tower. And it's like, then you meet
mind bullets.
You meet Matthew McConaughey. Who's like, love that dude to the end of the earth, but like is so miscast here. Not scary, he's just funny. Like he's actually like unintentional comic relief, I feel like, throughout the whole movie. And like he's got a couple of minions helping him out in this building. Like you don't know where you are, you don't know why it's happening. And like one of his minions, sometimes when I'm like baffled by a movie, I end up, listeners know this, I like fixate on one thing and I can't fucking get off of it. And I cannot stop thinking about it. So one of his minions is the stoner guy from Cabin in the Woods. And he, now we're on some like alien, other dimensional Earth or whatever, right? Or just planet. This guy is wearing like a legit Old Navy flannel shirt. And it's even more confusing because the other minion, who's a woman, is like kind of sci-fi'd up. And Matthew McConaughey just has a black suit on, so I guess like whatever, he's evil or something, I don't know. But I just kept coming back to it, and it's like, it just speaks to, at no point in the film is there ever any attempt made to flesh out the villains. like there's a half-assed attempt to flesh out the protagonist, but the villains are like, I don't know. Matthew McConaughey's a bad man, so he wants to kill stuff. But
And
it's
there's
like
just like a warehouse full of
Well, I
guys
mean-
hanging out in Brooklyn that
I
follow
can-
him for some reason.
yeah, and it's
I
like,
could
and it's
explain that to
also
you
like
if you
if
actually-
you like take it even to the logical next step of what he wants to do, like it would kill him and all his minions too. So what? And his powers are very undefined. He seems to be able to just walk up to somebody and be like, "Oh, you're dead," and then they die.
Stop breathing.
Yeah. So it's just like that. That's a little microcosm, I guess, of the entire thing. Things are just mentioned offhand and dismissed, and they might make allusions to book things, and the book readers might go, "Oh, okay, it's this thing," and then you can fill in for yourself. But as a non-book reader, like I said, it's just kind of happening to you, and I'm waiting. I'm going, okay, like I have no idea what's happening. I think this universe is kind of dumb. I'm sure it makes more sense and is more interesting in the books, but I'm thinking maybe I'll get a cool like gun showdown at some point. And then, like Joe said, like the shooting isn't that cool. He does do a cool thing where he rolls the gun along his gun belt and reloads it that way.
Yeah.
And like, but you know what? Reloading a gun is only a cool gimmick like one time. What I really want to see is you shoot a hole through a dude's fucking head. But the movie's PG-13, so they can't even like do that properly. And so it's super super baffling. I really think this would make a better TV show, if anything. Like, I even think that would be probably difficult to pull off in an intriguing way. It seems like a cool series. Maybe someday I'll try to read it, but probably not.
That
Can I
sounds
I'd
exhausting.
like to bring up two things to highlight how inept this movie is. And one goes back to what you were just saying, which is you don't understand who the bad guys are. They don't even introduce who the actual real bad guy of this series is, which is the Crimson King, who is like, you see the spray paint all over the place.
We see his like his spray paint, and like what is it, graffiti. And the funny thing is, not knowing anything about the story, I just thought that was like Matthew McConaughey, like another name for him or something.
Yeah,
course.
that's what I thought too.
Yeah, no, the Crimson King's like the demon of chaos or the devil, who essentially his whole goal is to destroy the planes of existence, which is who he's working for. So that's why those are there. But that's another point, right? Like, I'm supposed to be excited as a book reader that I see a character's name spray painted on the wall. No thanks. Like,
Yeah.
can you?
And they
create
hint,
characters?
they do hint at the crossing over universes, and in a way that probably meant much more to like Jason, but I can like, they pass what looks like, so this world is post-apocalyptic, and they pass like a rundown amusement park they're so far removed from that kind of a civilization that Idris Elba doesn't even know what it is. But like, it's called Pennywise, and there's a picture of a clown. So like, I have no fucking idea how that relates to the book, but I can go, oh, cool, it's Pennywise. Like, it's
Well, because technically, as a Stephen King fan, you're supposed to know that all of his books, like Jason was kind of saying, exist in the same world. They're just different worlds or different versions.
And I guess I guess I'm vaguely aware of that just
I thought
from
they all
his.
took place in Maine. That's
Yeah,
what
But for all of us that are not book readers, though, that's the problem, is because we get
But
to the scene and he's
exactly.
like, "That's the remnants of an ancient civilization," and Jake says, "No, it's a theme park. It's a what? It's a theme park, and that's all you get."
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess what I want to highlight is it's a worse experience for a book reader because you know what possibly could happen.
Yeah, it's gotta be
and
frustrating.
Exactly. Like,
Very
that's the
frustrating.
overwhelming sense that I've gotten, from like you and other people online. Is just like, oh man, so much potential, and I love this thing so much, and it's just kind of like,
It's
So
kind of
the moral
interesting because it's created like two vastly different movie viewing experiences, for whether based on if you're familiar with the books or not. That's how vague it is.
Neither one seems good though.
So the moral of the story is you shouldn't read a book. That's what I think you're saying.
there's all these
I think-
other.
Why bother?
Why bother? Give up now. Stay
I
literate.
think that's Melania Trump's
Why bother?
book reading thing. Why bother?
Every child left behind.
Fuck
Oh,
it, they
God.
make a movie. Why bother?
Well, the other thing I wanted to bring up that's so inept is if I'm going to ricochet a bullet off another bullet, I have to fire the bullet that's ricocheting first. Because shortest distance is pointing a bullet and shooting it straight at the person.
Not
I
in
can't
parallel
shoot-
worlds.
I can't shoot directly at somebody and then ricochet the other one off of it.
Yeah, but
Wait,
you're
wait,
not
hold on,
accounting
hold on.
for Matthew McConaughey holding it still in midair.
Hold on,
Yeah.
hold on, hold on.
Butterfly kiss.
Explain this
Didn't
to me.
he
Explain.
ricocheted off a wall going up, and then I assume there
I'm
was some
telling you,
sort of-
it's like Magic Johnson being like, okay, off the wall, behind the backboard,
Oh yeah.
off my head, into the bat. Like that was what those commercials were. I don't understand a word you just said, Jason, but it sounded smart. Yeah.
Well-
So there's like a bunch of stuff that is so like little. Again, it's like I keep fixating on little things. Like he finds a portal, and I guess in the books it's just a door, but in the movie it's like a kind of special effected up kind of portal, like Stargate looking thing. And first of all, he throws a shoe into it, which is fucking stupid. Because what you need that shoe, man? What if you don't? What if you
that
just
bothered me.
what if you
got
decide
some
not to go
splinters.
through the portal? Now you don't have a shoe, and that's stupid. And you're in New York City, and you're gonna get some kind of foot fungus and die.
I
You
mean, he
wouldn't
had
walk around
socks
with
on.
a shoe on your head, would you?
But
I
anyway,
actually thought it was kind of smart because
I
if
was
you
gonna
came
say, I
across a
would've done
magic
it.
bar,
no, you
if
pick
you
up.
come across a magic door, you're just gonna walk in and say,
No.
"Hey, what's on this side?"
But you're in
No,
a
wait, wait,
house.
wait.
You're in a
What are you
dilapidated
doing
house.
with that information?
You're in a dilapidated house. Pick up a board and throw it through. Like, why
That's
would you?
fair. That's fair.
Okay.
You wouldn't throw your wallet through there. Like, what the fuck?
That's fair. There was broken shit all over the place, and he just busted out a window with a bunch of boards. He did have other options.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
So that's all I'm saying. So anyway, but then like, a thing happens. He's attacked by the house in a way that kind of seems like the movie's assuming I know what's happening. And
Right.
then he psychic blasts out of it. And then later in the movie, there's this really throw off line from Matthew McConaughey of like, oh, the house demon didn't get him. He must be really strong. And he mumbles it too. And I'm like, I just feel like there's so many things whizzing over my head here about this universe. Again, like, so there's a den of people on Earth, which I guess is Keystone Earth. But it's unclear to me their function, I guess, other than finding these psychic children.
It doesn't even seem like they do that. I thought they just kind of hang out and like watch Jackie O'Haley tell stories about filming Bad News Bears.
So I guess it's funny, like when
well,
you remove all of the crazy timeline stuff and the King universe being all one thing and all the references, this is actually like kind of a super cliched story about an evil entity that just wants to kill Earth. You know what I mean? It's like when you strip out all the stuff that I don't understand,
Right.
all I see is a really cheesy plot with no depth to it. And and I get how there's depth to the books, but because of the way they did it here, it just doesn't translate.
Oh yeah, there's absolutely zero depth to this movie.
And I think that, I don't know if they were trying to make it seem more young adult to, broaden their audience and then to bring in this, this established base so that because they've already talked about making it into a television show. So I don't know if that's what they were aiming for all along. But now, if you haven't read the books and you were even vaguely interested, I mean, you'd have to go back to know anything else that's going to happen in the future, or at least understand anything that was going to happen in the future.
Yeah, it seems like the missed opportunity is like the movie is about the kid. Like we start on Earth with the kid, and I guess maybe too, if you're a Hollywood producer trying to mainstream this thing, you're thinking like, okay, he's your in on the story. He's kind of your cipher or whatever. But I feel like they missed a huge opportunity to make this movie about Idris Elba and really spend that time developing who he is and what his mission is. You know what I mean? And, I mean,
Well,
so I guess I understand
sure.
why they did it, but it seems like a super miscalculation.
Well, first of all, they completely change the motive of
Right.
the gunslinger. And in the books, the gunslinger's motive is to protect the tower. He is the main character. Jake is a very important character, but he's certainly not the main character. And the gunslinger's number one mission in life is to protect the tower, and stop it from he's not on a revenge mission. He'd like to kill the Man in Black, but that's a secondary motivation. Even up to the point that spoilers for the books, there's a very sad moment where the gunslinger lets Jake die to protect the tower. So his mission in life is to protect the tower, and it's very clearly drawn in the books, and to change his motivation entirely for the movies hurts the ability to go back and change this into a series or whatever.
Yeah, it seems like they sacrificed. It seems like they sacrificed any kind of character depth or complexity in favor, but still ended up with this like horribly complex plot. And then because there's no depth, like you also don't connect with any of the characters, which is a huge problem.
I think the frustrating thing too is like they talk about the Man in Black, and at no point do they mention what happened to Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, like in between the last movie and this one.
They got mind zapped, obviously.
How long have you been sitting on that one?
It literally just popped in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, oh yeah, I gotta make a Man in Black joke.
I just saw your face light up when you were sitting there, and I was like, what the hell is he thinking of?
Wait a second. You see little hamsters starting to run in my brain.
Yeah, like you can actually go back in the video and see the moment that light bulb happened.
It was impressive. Because I checked the chat to be like, what was he laughing at?
Oh,
Nope.
Don't give away my marks, or Eric's gonna start to know when to mute me.
I will say to what Cece said as well. I've heard that thrown around a lot. Like this is the young adult version of the Dark Tower and the Gunslinger, and I kind of take exception to that because I think there's a lot better young adult stuff out there than there is this It's a crap movie.
Well, it's specifically the thing about here's a misunderstood magical kid, and he's the key to everything, and he's so important, and his parents just don't understand him. Like, there's a lot of kind of tween angst in the first 40 minutes or whatever, and I think that's where that comparison comes from. And maybe that's in the book. I don't know.
Why did that mom marry that guy who just seems to openly hate her child?
Yeah, that was really uncomfortable.
I don't know. Teenagers seem terrible, so.
Yeah, that guy's animosity. There's no way he would have hidden that from her while they were dating.
Yeah.
That's like the stereotypical like 80s movie stepdad, though. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it's the opposite in the books. Like Jake's is rich. He chooses to leave that life for something greater. His family loves him. It's much more interesting.
Well, and also like, oh, his dad's dead. Like, isn't his dad alive in the movie? Like, there's no, or the book, there's no stepdad, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's just, and I never understand that motivation or that direction when making a movie. Like, why was that the direction that we were supposed to care about this kid more just because his dad was dead?
Because it's lowest common denominator. It's like they turned him into a slasher, like Final Girl, basically.
Right. It was very
with the Shannon.
Yeah, it's cheap and it's super shallow. I mean, towards the audience, like that we're just supposed to feel bad for this kid because he doesn't have a dad.
And I think all this sums up like the ultimate problem with this movie is that, and again, like I'm not even sure there was a path to victory here, but instead of believing in the material, and you got to think this, like I know Jason mentioned, I don't know if you brought it up previously, but like that there was a much longer cut and that they basically threatened to throw the director off if he didn't cut it down himself. They, instead of having confidence in the material and going out and just making an out there movie, but just doing your best to make it really, really solid, they felt like they didn't have the confidence in the story. Like they greenlit this movie and then felt the need to undermine what it was about at every turn in order to come up with something they felt was marketable. And in the end, I feel like they turned out something that's literally not going to please anyone.
Let's just not forget that Ron Howard was originally on this film.
I knew that
he was originally going to be doing this. He was like, I'm going to come in. I love this idea. I'm going to make this movie and I'm going to make a show about it. And they're like, no, you're not.
And he's listed as a producer still because I saw him in the credits. And I wonder if he got in and was like, they were already giving shit and he was like, yeah, I'm fucking Ron Howard. I'm not going to deal with this. I'm going to go do Star Wars. You guys figure your shit out.
Well, this thing, from everything we've read about this movie, with the talks about how there was a 3-hour cut in the studio forced it to be cut down. There's plans for a TV show, but they don't have anything solid yet. Idris Elba says he would probably be down for it. They don't have a channel for it. They don't have a script for it, things like that. This seems like it's a new generation of meddling from the studio that we're seeing here. It's like the studio has a
Well-
vision of turning this into some huge franchise, and they're going to make shitloads of money, and that's all they care about, and they completely lost sight of
Well,
actually making the shit good while they're creating all this.
Here's the thing.
Yeah, it's Sony.
Just to kind of okay, Sony does suck, but just to play devil's advocate, you gotta put yourself in the seat of like of course they want to make money. Like that's what they're trying to do.
Well, that's not what I'm knocking them about though, because they're thinking, oh, we're going to put this movie. We want to make them cut it down because we want them to come watch this TV show that we haven't signed up anything for yet. And we don't know if we're going to get approved if this is not going to make the money. But let's just give them a little bit to draw them into something further on down the line that we don't know is going to be there.
But I'm just saying, like, I think we like to think, oh, they made the boneheaded move. Of course, obviously, you stick with the source material. But I totally see how an executive would look at the source material and be like, what is this shit? Like,
oh, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I can see that. It's so bizarre, the decisions that are made when they're bad decisions.
It's just-
You're like, you
yeah.
could have just made a more simple decision that might have made it better. I mean, it could have made it worse, but it's just, I always find that really fascinating in movies that I don't find interesting or good, like the process on who made those decisions for it. But I mean, I think that the Dark Tower series probably got picked up because everything that's so popular right now are these huge either multiverses or these parallel worlds, like these huge series that can span the internet, the TV, big screen. Everything is about these series. So I think that they were just reaching for the next big thing, and it was a swing and a
But if you
miss.
If
And
you
they
could do
did
that, you
that-
need to give them a budget bigger than $60 million to make this movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
That's
But-
insane.
Well, they have to have a concrete plan, and I think that's what's missing here on Sony's part is they don't have a concrete plan. Like Jason's example earlier with the Hobbit movie. Hobbit's a 150-page story or book, but then they say, "Hey, we're going to make this into three 3-hour movies, 2.5-hour movies." They said that from the start. They had that mapped out from the start. They started out saying, "Hey, we're going to make 2 movies." No, we're going to turn it into 3. They had it laid out. They had a plan. I don't think Sony has that here.
Well,
They think they know they have the potential. They got all excited and they kind of blew their load before they got started.
where would you even go from here? The story's over.
No,
But
well,
it's
I mean,
not in terms
no,
of the
because
books.
and the gunslinger and Jake walk off together. I
Yeah,
mean,
but the man
Hand
in
in
black
hand.
is gone. The tower's safe. Like,
yeah, but Jason just said, I mean, like that's not really the main villain of the Dark Tower universe.
well,
Yeah.
You've got
but
the
like
Crimson
it,
King, and you have all these other things. So
then they
And
really
there's more
super.
than one Man in Black because there's
Then-
multiple
Right.
universes.
Well, but you don't. I mean, they didn't
Yeah.
set any of that up in the movie. You don't even know who the Crimson King is in the movie, right?
right, but I mean, but
You don't even know who the Man in Black is. You don't
Yeah.
know that he's Randall Flagg, who's also the bad guy in The Stand, who's also in multiple King.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
properties.
Yeah. Yep.
See, and from what I've read of the TV show, there's an article that came out this week on what's next for the Dark Tower, and they're talking about it. And I think part of their plans is that they want to go and they start, at least this article was saying, they get this TV show off the ground. They want to go back and tell us all this, a bunch of this history about the gunslinger and his dad and this war they fought fighting, defending the tower and stuff, which is fine.
yeah,
But you
Sure.
have to give us some of that to get this movie to make people want to stick around for it.
Let it just go do something good, please.
yes.
When that comes out on DVD, I'm putting this out there now to the BGH universe. I really need a GIF of Matthew McConaughey catching bullets out of the air.
Oh,
If we can make
I
that
want one of
happen.
them cooking chicken.
Yeah. Yes, he
But you're
cooks
putting
chicken.
it out there to the BGH universe, but which BGH universe? The Keystone or
Ah.
Earth Prime or
Mhm.
the one where I got
Prime.
action in high school. That's really the one I want.
The wa-
Be a part of.
There's only so many universes, Joe.
Hey-oh.
Not a one. Not a one. Did anyone find my disgusting Metallica t-shirts and mullet attractive?
Oh my God, Joe. Oh, Joe, can you well, you already emailed me that picture of you in high school, right?
Yeah, I think
Shit.
so.
Can you put it in the chat? I can't find it. I didn't save
Oh.
it.
I think it's in Slack. I have no idea.
Damn it. It's
All
on
right.
Facebook.
You give
right?
me. We'll see how things go.
All right, guys, would you recommend The Dark Tower, Joe?
No.
Cece.
On demand.
Casey.
I'd have to go with CC and say on demand.
Jason.
No,
I
not
say,
in any universe.
I say no. There it is. 3 up, 2 down. All right, guys. It is time to do some fan mail.
The Stereo Warehouse on the Gulf Freeway presents Night of the Living Deal. The big deals, they keep coming and coming. Jetson car speakers from $9.
Here's a real hot deal.
12-inch three-way home speakers, hundreds of watts, $49. Final call on clearing car stereos, $19.
Save up to 80% on brand name stereo.
Night of the Living Deal. At the Stereo Warehouse. Any other deal is no big deal.
Hi, this is Mark Corvin. I'm the music composer for The Witch, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. We are back. Info at... Oh, there it is, Joe. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait. I can't save that off Instagram, though. Oh, yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Nope, I cannot. Info at bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. That fucking... Your hair kind of looks like Matthew McConaughey's in this picture, Joe.
A little bit.
Do you realize that?
Oh, man.
Hence the lack of action in high school.
You know what the worst part of this picture is, Joe? You smile like a pedophile. Like, that's fucked up. It's creepy. First email from Skylar. I have a BGH quote that was far too long to send via Twitter, but far too good to let go to waste. So here you go. Mark the ever eloquent during episode 1.
Oh.
Bruce Campbell could just fucking walk in one frame on a film and just like make some I'm hot shit face and people would fucking blow their load and ruin their keyboards. You know what I mean?
You didn't know what
I
I
do.
mean.
And
I've ruined a lot of keyboards.
yeah, and Skylar's response is yes, Mark. Yes, we do. Oh, there it is, Joe. Thank you. Oh, yeah. In the video, for anybody curious about Joe's high school. Did you just find like all these wallet sizes too? Like you just carry
My
them?
parents, every time they come to visit, they just bring a stack of photos, and this was tucked in there. Like the entire like package, because apparently they got that from our school and looked at it and said, "We are never opening these up. He is a disgusting thing."
Caitlin, if the girl that was in the cult, so this is about Annabelle creation. If the girl that was in the cult died and a drop of blood went into the doll in Annabelle, and that's supposed to be how the doll became possessed, then what the hell is Annabelle creation about? This is a great point. So in Annabelle, we are shown the origin story that's basically like some bootleg Marilyn Manson, some bootleg Charlie Manson shit where his followers are killing the couple and the blood gets on the doll and it gets possessed that way. So why are we now seeing a different origin story?
Money.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dollar
yes.
bills.
Obviously, yes.
Dollar bills. Annabelle's got to get paid.
That should have.
Last up tonight, Connor. Hey, BGH, I have some movie recommendations for the show. These aren't great, but they're some of my personal favorite low-budget films. Frankenstein.
Way to set it up, Connor.
Frankenstein's Army. Frankenstein's Army is some kind of weird found footage thing. The original House on Haunted Hill, and the 1922 silent film Nosferatu. Joe would quit this show if we made him watch Nosferatu.
I already had to watch that for a film class in college. So.
Yeah.
I've heard good things about Frankenstein's Army.
Yeah, I
as
gotta
well.
say, like the title Frankenstein's Army is certainly very intriguing.
I've seen that one, or at least parts of it. It was pretty good. It's that thing's whole bread and butter is about crazy makeup and monster effects, which is they do a good job with. It's pretty zany.
Yeah. Info at bloodygoodhorror.com. That's all for emails. Who's got my Twitters for me?
I got it in front of me. First up, we use 2 different hashtags on the tweets. For those of you listening to old episodes and find something that you might enjoy, use the hashtag BGH Classics. We got one this week from Jake. Andy says, I'm moist with anticipation. Then John says, I'm moist, talking about Andy being moist. And Mark wraps it up with, I'm just generally moist. That is from episode 217. Which I'm not sure what that was, but apparently it was a very moist one. Moist.
Okay.
And then we take questions every week with the hashtag AskBGH. And we got a gaggle here, so let's get to it. First up from J Guana91. He says, which two filmmakers would you like to see team up or team up again? Example, Ty West and Eli Roth. And for what subgenre?
Can you read that again?
Sure. What two filmmakers would you like to see team up and make a movie?
Oh, none.
Yeah.
I don't think filmmaker.
Martin Scorsese and Kevin Smith.
Yeah, like, you know what?
I want to see Rob Zombie and Eli Roth team up and trade scripts and film each other's scripts.
No, like Rob Zombie and Eli Roth, but what they're fighting for is it's like a competition to see who's allowed to make horror movies again, and then like the audience votes on who's never allowed to do it again.
Do you think that David Fincher and David Lynch could do a movie together?
It's
Like,
too many Davids.
What would that even look like?
They call it Flincher.
Okay, Joe.
Just be straight up confusion. Next up from Hunter Shea 1. Has found footage completist Eric seen Bad Ben yet? I think he'll dig it, even if only for a laugh.
No. Well, I don't know. I'm unfamiliar.
Looks like it came out last year, 2016.
I mean, I love found footage, but if we're not doing it for the show, like, I don't see it. So.
Next up from Skizbot, he says, this may be almost too hard to answer, but what is the worst Stephen King movie adaptation? I vote Dreamcatcher. Yikes.
So I'm actually like, I mean, so if he's specifically saying adaptation as in translation from the book to movie, obviously I can't speak on that. But I think if you're talking bad Stephen King movies, you have to at least put the Langoliers into the conversation, which was like just a god-awful made-for-TV adaptation that I actually kind of love because I saw it when I was young and I have some nostalgia for it. But it has like some of the worst CGI that has ever happened.
I don't remember if the movie itself is bad, but I do remember that creepy like cat people sex scene in Sleepwalkers being extremely uncomfortable.
Cat incest?
Yeah,
I mean,
I could have done without.
I hated Secret Window. I actually liked Dreamcatcher, but Secret Window was it was horrible. I hated
you
it.
stole my story.
I'm just like, no. So
Wasn't
over it.
Who was in that? It was Depp, right?
Johnny Depp.
Good old Depp.
Anybody else?
I kind of want to say The Shining and just piss people off, but because this is not a great adaptation. But
it's a great movie.
Yes, but it's not.
Yeah.
The question was, what's a bad adaptation?
That's
but
fair.
it is a great movie. It is a better movie than the book. But whatever. I would say Cell. Cell is awful.
Yeah.
Terrible.
I will just say that I actually like Dreamcatcher. Sorry.
Yeah, I think
all right.
like Dreamcatcher's fine. It has Jason, what's his face in it? Who's awesome always?
Me?
Yes.
All right. Next up from Ben Ecker. He says, why doesn't the Dark Town invest in streetlights? And he is mocking me because I accidentally tweeted that we were talking about the Dark Town tonight. And then another one from Skizbot says, in honor of this week's film, what are some of your biggest movie letdowns? I was so excited for Suicide Squad.
Oh,
That's a good question.
I thought a lot about this, and I remember the Garbage Pail Kids movie when I was a kid being the biggest disappointment of my childhood.
You know what? Going back to childhood, that's a good point. I'm going to say Ninja Turtles 3 because it's so bad.
Not enough Vanilla Ice.
They're back
Oh,
in
you know what
time.
else broke my heart was the Rocky Horror Picture Show because I rented it when I was in like first grade,
Dude,
and
yes.
that is not a horror movie.
I rented Rocky Horror Picture Show. I've told the story before, but like probably like right on the brink of puberty, and I remember just being very, very confused by the whole situation.
Yeah.
Although
I'm
it's
like,
funny because I love the movie, like, and actually even at the time I'm like, By the time I got through it, I'm like, okay, that was kind of cool, but I still had absolutely no idea what the hell was happening.
I'm like,
So, Eric,
I
it's
like
safe to
horror
say,
movies. This has the word horror in it. I'm gonna love this.
So it's safe to say the Rocky Horror Picture Show made you a man? Is that...
Sure, or like a sweet transvestite. I don't know.
Yeah, made me something.
I would say the first Matrix sequel is a pretty disappointing film.
You know,
solid,
that was
yeah.
one of, like, there are things I enjoy about both of them, and I think that the second one is better. But yeah, like there was certainly disappointment because there is scarce a movie I could love more than the original Matrix, and like in hindsight, the sequels were never going to live up to that. So yeah, I get it.
Anybody else? All right. Next up from Not My Daiji's, our good friend Andy says, in honor of Oi, which I have no idea what that is, what are some of your favorite fictional critter companions?
Yeah, Oi is a talking animal in the books, the Dark Tower books.
Oh.
Which is where that
Easy,
reference.
It's Ludo from Labyrinth.
So you know what's interesting is there's this joke in the movie where he's in the hospital and he sees a commercial with a talking raccoon and he looks at him and he goes, "Do animals still talk here?" And I didn't know it was a book reference, but I actually kind of giggled. Like it's sort of funny because you're just like, oh, you just assume it's some weird thing about his universe. And most of my audience laughed, and I assume most of them are not book readers or whatever. But then Jason was like, "Oh yeah, that's a reference." I'm like, "Oh okay, that makes a lot more sense for being in there then."
I mean, the dire wolves in Game of Thrones are pretty badass.
Dude, yes, good answer. Oh,
and I wish that they were around more.
I know it's so yeah, like where's Ghost?
I know. Oh,
he's got to be in
Where is
Winterfell
he?
somewhere, right?
I'm
I
sure.
think he went back to Hogwarts for the next season.
Yeah.
Like he's making pottery with anymore.
I'm gonna say Falcor from Neverending Story.
Oh,
That's
bad.
a good one.
I had a dog that looked like Falcor. His name was Garth after after Wayne and Garth.
I actually also have a dog that looks like Falcor.
Oh.
I'm gonna say Benji.
Oh,
That's
is
all.
nice. Yeah, what are those dogs from Homeward Bound? Oh,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
those were nice.
Oh yeah.
Milo and Otis.
Milo.
All right. Next up from @Koganzo. You guys will probably mention this, but who read the books and how noticeable are the changes? That's pretty much what we just talked about for
went
now.
all over.
Next up from @iScout247. What are your guys' favorite foreign horror films? Thanks.
That's a good question.
I mean, we did mine a couple weeks ago, Tombs of the Blind Dead.
Oh.
Yeah.
Martyrs.
I really liked Let Me In.
Yeah, and I saw
That's
The
a great
Devil was
answer.
really good.
High Tension.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's a good
last week we talked too about a lot of that Argento stuff, like Opera and Tenebrae and Phenomenon.
I'm a big
stuff
fan
like that.
of Yellows, but I'm gonna say I think I mentioned this before. Martyrs.
Yeah,
From
Martyrs.
Martyrs.
That's my answer too. I mean, it's
Inside
just,
as well is very good.
It's just such a well-made movie. Yeah, Inside was pretty good.
All right. And then last but possibly least, no offense, at my cousin Iv, he says, how bad is it? Which is, again, what we just talked about for an hour. So
It was great.
That'll do it for tweets.
Yeah, the Ask BGH is more like, what do you want us to talk about after we've talked about the movie for an hour?
And we're done.
Oh, okay.
I just like a picture. I like the picture in my head, a listener that fast forwards through the whole show to get to the Ask BGH portion to find out what we thought.
Yeah.
Jesus, that was good. I'm gonna go watch it.
Before we wrap, Eric, we should mention October 21st, the big 10-year BGH fantastic Back to Spooky School drink up at the Lakefront. No, what is it? Fuck. Whatever. The distillery up in Milwaukee.
Great Lakes
We're doing
Distillery.
Great Lakes Distillery, and then the Midnight Movie Screaming a Reanimator. Tickets are on sale for Patreon members right now. You guys just got an email for that today. And then next, probably Wednesday, it'll go out to the rest of the masses. So look for that.
Very nice. Yeah, and next week, Annabelle Creation, whatever the hell that turns out to be. So check it out. bloodygoodhorror.com. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya.
Okay, Jason, you go now.
Goodbye.
All right, goodbye.
Bye-bye.